Fantastic, Josh. Fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, a bit flat. But I mean, not surprised, but still flat.
Yeah, it's just like, what more evidence do we need to make a change? Like, we can't keep carrying on like this, surely.
Yeah. Again, like I look at the scenario of the day, right? You come into a match where one of your potential relegation, uh, you know, competitors has just won and has, shortened the distance between you and potential relegation zone. You're at Burnley, who are also a relegation team, and yeah, sure, you're away, but this is the fixture that of all the fixtures that we should do well in, and you would think we would win the match. This is one of them,
Yeah.
and just yeah, it just the frustration for me just comes from the lack of pride, And I started to think about like if we can just do an exercise with the players that we've brought in say the last maybe 12 to 18 months and identify what would be the top reason as to why they would come to Spurs, right? Like when you look at, let's take Gallagher, for example. Now, from my understanding, he wasn't getting a ton of minutes. Is that correct?
He started 2 games this season, I think. For
4
Atletico.
games, yeah.
4 games.
But in his previous club.
For Atletico, for Atletico, he only started 4 games this season.
4 games, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the most likely reason Gallagher's coming to Spurs is to play, right? There's a number of players that would fit that. Obviously, players like Tell, players like Odebear, and they are getting minutes. But my point is, if you were to go across the board as to why would a player want to come to Spurs? It's not for Ange's reason because they want to come to Spurs. It's for a selfish reason. All right. It's not for success. It's not because I have, everything that Spurs means to me as a club. It's a place that I want to be.
You mean Paulinia, Mawani, Gallagher,
correct,
all these
correct.
players?
Like what players have come to Spurs because they see success at Spurs and they see their potential value increasing. Like, go back in history at who those players are. They are Kane, they are Son, they are Romero, but there's so few of them, right? So you think about the culture of a squad that is essentially like a transitory squad.
Yeah.
They're coming here for either money, for playing time, for the opportunity as a springboard. Do you know what I mean? So their entire psychology is, I'll be here for a window of time and I'll be out. If I win something big, whatever, that's a bonus. Like that's Spurs. That's how the high performance operation functions. So no surprise that you get results like this, which are the most common result.
What's the answer then? Because what player in world football right now wants to come to Spurs for Spurs? Like, there's not many of them out there.
Well, but again, this is like the guy that we signed from Liverpool. Like again, why is he coming here? Well, because he's outdated at Liverpool. He's not going to get the opportunity, so he's got a couple of good paying years in him, and maybe he goes somewhere else to Saudi Arabia at the end of that 2 years or whatever. Do you know? But we're not getting winners at the managerial level. Well, obviously, you can take Ange out because he was a winner and he won, but we're not getting the type of people who are prepared to go through the difficult times, and there's a ton of them at this club, and navigate them, stay long enough to where the things that the operation or the organisation needs to figure out to become a perennial success. Like, so what has to change? We have to get winners. Like, and again, it comes back to the board. We say Enoch, we say, Vinay and Lang, and Paratici's obviously on his way out, if not gone. But just the decision-making process is one of an organisation that, as far as success is concerned, and being a challenging club, they've got no idea. They really have no idea.
Sticking on today, though, Josh, obviously scored that last-minute equaliser. Do you think the board looks at that and thinks, looking at the game as a whole, Tottenham created the more chances. They were maybe a bit unlucky to win. They got the equaliser. Maybe that saved his job. Or do you reckon that the board at the high level are looking at that relegation scenario and thinking we really are getting close to that and we've got to do something drastic?
Well, I reckon when Romero scored the equaliser, the board would have taken a collective breath, right? Because it gives them the opportunity to avoid the decision that needs to be made. That's do you know what I mean? They're like, oh, thank God we don't have to make it today.
But surely a draw is bad enough.
Oh, mate, 100%. As far as I'm concerned, if we didn't win 2-0, 3-1, I mean, again, think
You're
about
saying even sack him if we just won 1-0.
But think about the mindset of, what scenario would we have to see to give him more time? In my mind, he should have already been gone, so it doesn't matter. But that's not how this club operates, and most of the fan base don't operate like that as well. They just want to see the win, and great, I feel good about my team and myself, and on to next week type stuff. So yeah, I think again, I'm trying to put my mind in what should happen versus what the DNA of the decision makers in the club, how they function, and there's a collective sigh of relief that they don't have to sack him today. They should, but they
no, go on, carry on.
No, it's just they should, but I don't think they will.
There's been a comment from Frank in the post-match press conference that I wanted to get both of your reactions on. Something that Sim was maybe expecting. And he says, I don't think it was a bad performance. It was maybe not the result we hoped for. I think the performance, if you look at throughout the game, especially in the first half, was good. And the way we ended the game was good. What do you make out of those comments?
Well, having obviously watched the match now, as far as I'm concerned, the game went exactly to script. Right? Tottenham were going to dominate possession. We were going to get more of the chances. It was going to be a matter of whether we executed on those chances. But Burnley were going to get their chances, and it was a matter of with fewer chances, were they going to execute on them? So that's what I mean. When you have a 2-0 to Spurs or a 3-1 scoreline, how they played the match and their performance is definitive, because that would have gone against the game script. The fact that it could have gone 2-1 to us, 2-1 to them. It ended up 2-2. I'm like, nothing changed. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what has changed. In his comment, again, nothing has changed. There's I think of the word duplicitous. Like, Frank is playing both sides. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's playing the side of, obviously trying to sustain his job for as long as he can. But he's also playing the side of, protecting the players. So winners are very direct in their communication, in their language, right? And you don't have, when a winner speaks, you know exactly where they stand. I have no idea where he stands, other than on the fence.
Yeah. So, but if you're a player, hearing Frank say these things after a performance like that, what do you think they're thinking about that?
Well, again, it comes back to the player, right? If you're Romero, if you're Van der Ven, if you're Porro, if you've got that winning DNA, you're just shaking your head, right? If you're anyone else, that's fine, because it keeps the high performance ecosystem married to the way you think, right? So if you look at players like, maybe not Danzo. I thought Danzo was quite good at times today, but you think about the players whose performances are consistently inconsistent. They love Frank, right? Because he's inoffensive. He's probably never going to put you in a position where you're playing. If you're in the first team, if you're on the run-on squad, he's never going to put you in a position where your long-term minutes are going to be reduced, because he's not clinical enough. He's not ruthless enough. So yeah, I think if you're one of those winners, you're just, what am I doing here? Other than a paycheck. And if you're anyone else, you're like, great, I'm like under a warm, comfy blanket here. Nothing too much is going to be expected of me. I'm not going to get the finger pointed at me, and we just roll on to next week.
When you look at how Tottenham ended the game, hit the bar, we got the equaliser and throwing caution to the wind, and did actually look, threatening, similar to how we did against West Ham when we're losing, against Bournemouth when we're losing, against Aston Villa when we're losing. Psychologically, do you think it's a case of just we've got nothing to lose, so we have to pile players forward? Is it about throwing the manager's tactics out the window in the chasing of an equaliser? What do you think psychologically is going on there? Why that we have to wait till we're losing until we look threatening?
Because I think that the reality has to get right in front of their eyes before they respond. That's what I was saying about before the match, right? So that this is an important match before West Ham won.
Yeah.
It became a critical match when they won, right? Now, what if Leeds and Forest win, right? This is the danger, the short-term futuristic danger. What if Leeds and Forest win this week, and even Bournemouth, right?
Bournemouth are winning, by the way.
Are they winning? Right. Okay. Then it's not just West Ham that is your problem. It can be, if it becomes 2 to potentially 4 clubs that we are looking over our shoulders, like, we are in big trouble. If it's just one club, you can manage that. When it's 2 or 3, if it's Leeds, Forest, and West Ham, boy, that's really scary stuff.
Worst case scenario this weekend is that we're joint 16th with Leeds on level points, and Nottingham Forest are 3 points below us. That's the worst case scenario.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, that, and again, that's what, going back to my comment last week where I said, to win these types of matches, it's almost like we have to go 1-0 down, because that's then you're faced with that reality of loss, and then you respond to the reality of loss, right? And this is where it's really, really frustrating psychologically. So we're trying to avoid something. Our performance has increased because we're trying to avoid loss. And I'm not saying the loss of a match, right? We're losing something, right? As opposed to, what the better teams do is they see something in front of them and then they go and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Yeah.
We're worried about what's behind us instead of focusing on how do we catch what's ahead of us.
Exactly. And that comes down to the manager.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because he's not painting whatever vision he's putting out in the future for these guys. It's not enticing enough to then go and do what is necessary to then realize the result right? And that's what Ange was brilliant at, right? As far as his communication and his motivation and stuff like that. You see that video where he was talking about before the Europa League match, and his words were, when he's holding that trophy, stop. When he's holding that trophy, so he's talking about Sonny, right? And it wasn't enough for him to say that once, right? He had to say it again, and in that moment, the players got more clarity, and no surprise that Sonny ended up holding the trophy, right? So he had a heap of other, deficiencies, I guess, but as far as someone, this is what I said I think on Stell's channel the other day, the coach's job, right? Yes, technical, and set up and strategy and all that sort of in-game stuff, training, setting all that sort of schedule. In the end, the great managers, they paint a picture of an individual and a team that is beyond what they see for themselves, right? In the end, that's the job. It's like, okay, this is where I see you as a player, and I'm going to help you get there. Because there's always someone who sees more in ourselves than we see in ourselves. All right? That's the job of the manager. And Frank has got zero concept of that.
Yeah. Instead of saying when he's holding that trophy, he's probably pointing to Cuti Romero and saying, when he saved us from relegation,
That's right, mate. You got it, right? You got it, Ben. That's because we avoided something. We're trying to avoid something. We're not trying to grab something.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, Bournemouth are 2-0 up now, by the way. So
unreal.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's another place drop down in the league. But look, Josh, thank you so much for coming on once again today.
Thanks,
my friend.
guys. Take it easy.
And hopefully we
Listen to
hope
everyone
for
else.
better days, my friend.
Yeah, always. Big up, guys. See you.
Good to see
See
you,
you
Josh.
later.
Then we concede another goal that we can never, ever, ever concede. That makes it difficult for us. But big praise to the players for showing character and running power and willpower to keep going. And we created a big chance to match to Xavi. And I think there was one more and then the goal. So did more than enough to get the equaliser. And over the game, I think did more than enough to win it. But unfortunately not.
It's nowhere near more than enough. If you don't put the chances away, you keep going. You keep going until you get those chances, more chances, and put them in the back of the net. How many lull periods were in a game when we were just doing absolutely nothing, passing sideways, backwards, and not even anywhere close to penetrating the opposition? Like, that's what good teams do. They keep going until they find the back of the net.
And let's be honest, that goal from Burnley was coming. And
Yeah.
that it says it wasn't exactly a shock when they scored. And it only took until they scored for us to actually go at Burnley and create all those chances. So yes, was it a good chance? Was it a good response? Sorry, to the going 2-1 down, and we did have 3 chances after they scored to make it 2-1. So it was a good response on paper. But this keeps happening. How does he not see it? We keep going down and then there's a response. And then we go at the teams and then we throw caution to the wind. Why does it always happen when there's nothing to lose and it's late in the game? It happens every time. Like, I don't understand how he doesn't see that pattern. And acknowledge it. Instead of just saying, yeah, it's great that we're responding. It's like, why does it have to always be a response every time?
Yeah.
Can we not get ahead of them and be proactive?
Absolutely.